I'm Sam. Welcome to Brickwall Unplugged. Today I'm doing a Philip Seymour Hoffman tier list. This video has been a long time coming. I am a huge fan of PSH. He's one of my all-time favorite actors, and in fact I actually did name him my #1 favorite actor of all time in an old video, and I think that holds true. We have 25 Philip Seymour Hoffman movies to get through, so let's get started. These are in a randomized order like always. First up is The Master, one of his many Paul Thomas Anderson collaborations, and one of his best roles, like flat out. He is phenomenal in this, and it's such a good, meaty character for him to sink his teeth into. He's got some killer monologues. The couple of scenes, especially between him and Joaquin Phoenix, are real showstopper sequences. I also talked about The Master on my Paul Thomas Anderson tier list. I forget where I ranked it there. I think probably an A, maybe an S. I think it's probably an A movie. I don't remember if that's where I ranked it before. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the A. I think if we were solely judging Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance, it's easily an S. But I am evaluating the overall film here. Okay, next up is Moneyball. Moneyball is directed by Bennett Miller, who is the same man who directed him in Capote, which we'll talk about later on. But it was written by Aaron Sorkin, who has turned out to be kind of a shitty person, like he was against the WGA strike and stuff like that. But he is a really good writer, wrote some really good movies in the past, really great with dialogue in particular. But Moneyball is not one of his best, nor is it one of Bennett Miller's best. Full disclosure, I don't like baseball. I think it's a dumb sport. I do not care about it whatsoever. In fact, I kind of tune out if baseball ever comes up, so that's definitely a strike against this movie from the get-go, and it holds it back a bit for me personally. If you like baseball, you probably get a whole lot more out of it. That being said, it's pretty well made. The performances are good, not just from Philip Seymour Hoffman, of course, but Brad Pitt's good in it. Jonah Hill's actually pretty good in it. This was towards the beginning of Jonah Hill's pivot toward more dramatic roles after he had been working exclusively in comedy for a long time, and he does a pretty good job here. I think it's a C movie, nothing special, but it's okay. Okay, next up is State and Maine. This is one that I watched recently, just because I was craving a little Philip Seymour Hoffman. It's from David Mamet, the acclaimed playwright, but this is actually his sort of take on the film industry as someone who went from plays to films. Philip Seymour Hoffman actually plays a very obvious David Mamet surrogate in the movie. He plays an acclaimed playwright whose play is being adapted into a feature film, and it's about the pitfalls and foibles of filmmaking. There are a few movies like this. It's pretty similar to Living in Oblivion, for example, or some, there's bigger budgeted, more well-known versions of that sort of premise too. And State and Maine is not one of the better takes on that material. It's pretty dry. It's mostly a comedy with some drama and some romance in there. It's just not that funny, and it's not that dramatic either. You can tell it's got some I don't know, its insights into the film industry also aren't all that unique. It's accurate, I guess, but so what? You know what I mean? It's got a big cast. William H. Macy's really good in it. Philip Seymour Hoffman, he again completely transforms for this role, even though he's basically just playing David Mamet. And I gotta be honest, the author insert character thing always annoys me, and that includes when the author insert character is David Mamet. It's pretty unremarkable. I think I'm gonna go all the way down to a D with this one. And on my scale, D isn't bad. It's just not very worthwhile, but not outright bad. It's only E and F where it's that was bad. Okay, next up is The Big Lebowski. This is a smaller role for Philip Seymour Hoffman, but he is fantastic in it. He gets the absolute most out of every little line, every little silent reaction that he gives in the background. And I would say the same thing about Boogie Nights coming up later on, where small part, but he really owns that part and gets more mileage out of it than I think any other actor would in that same role. He's really good in this. The movie, The Big Lebowski, it's an all-timer. It's an absolute stone-cold classic. Gets funnier every time you watch it. Talked about it already in my Coen Brothers tier list. It's going to get the S, even though it's a smaller role for Hoffman. Okay, next up is Owning Mahowny. This is a larger role of The Big Lebowski, but a smaller movie. I don't really see this one talked about very often. It's a gambling movie, and I love a good gambling movie as a poker player. Philip Seymour Hoffman is fantastic in owning Mahowny. He delivers one of the absolute best portrayals of a gambling addiction that has ever been committed to screen. And I've seen a lot of gambling movies. It's kind of like a little niche that I love diving into. He blows them all out of the water when it comes to the depiction of gambling addiction in particular. And it's a pretty interesting premise. He's specifically a bank manager who's using his position within the bank, like meaning other people's money, to fuel his gambling addiction. And it's based on a true story, a crazy true story. The movie isn't amazing, though. It's not essential. It's not like amazingly written or directed, but it's got a good premise, and Hoffman is incredible in it. Definitely worth the watch if you're a big fan of his. I think I'd give it a B. His performance really elevates things. With a lesser performance, the movie's probably a C at best. Okay, next up is Punch Drunk Love. This is Philip Seymour Hoffman in an antagonist role, which he always excelled at. He doesn't come into this movie until like pretty late, and I guess his screen time is kind of limited, but he feels like the other lead alongside Sandler. And Emily Watson's really good too, of course. But he's so fucking good at this. I love using that clip of him just saying "shut up" over and over again. I love just like sneaking that in the videos because it's just so good.
No. Shut up! Shut the fuck up!
You have no right to take me.
Shut up! Will you shut up? Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
He's so fun. He's so like entertaining in that little role. And it's a great movie all over. I talked about it a bit more extensively in my Paul Thomas Anderson tier list. Again, I forget if I gave it an A or an S. I think I'm going to go all the way to S here because I think it's special. The S stands for special, I guess. Okay, next up is Happiness. Todd Solondz's Happiness. This is the only Todd Solondz movie I've seen at this point. And I watched it pretty recently, and I will tell you it will not be the last Todd Solondz because I absolutely loved this movie. I was floored by this movie. I was shocked and so caught off guard by this movie. I had no idea what it was about. All I knew is that Philip Seymour Hoffman was in it and that Todd Solondz made it, who's a filmmaker whose like name I've heard but know nothing about any of his movies. So I went in completely blind, and that is the way to watch this movie. I won't be saying anything about the plot or anything like that. It's so good. All I'll say is that it's an ensemble cast, and it's a vignette film that jumps between different storylines, a lot like Magnolia, which we'll talk about later on. Very similar to Magnolia, in fact, but like both very dark and hilarious at the same time. And it really does not pull its punches. I love this movie. I was not prepared to find it as incredible as I did, but it's getting the full S tier. Okay, next up is Twister. I don't have too much to say about Twister. Never really cared for it. It fits snugly in that blockbuster, spectacle-driven arena that just pretty much always does nothing for me. I don't care for it. I think it's an E on like my personal taste scale. Maybe the movie itself is better than that, but I will not go near it. And I'm never watching that sequel that just came out. Okay, next up is Hard Eight. This is a tiny little role for Philip Seymour Hoffman. Towards the beginning of his career and at the very beginning of Paul Thomas Anderson's career, he just plays a unnamed craps player. He shoots some dice, and he's good. He's memorable even in that tiny little like one scene bit part. The movie itself is okay, honestly. Paul Thomas Anderson's definitely like finding his footing in this one. He's wearing his influences on his sleeve a little bit more than he did later on in his career. There's some worthwhile things, there are some good performances, but the script is a little odd. It makes some like weird choices that don't really jibe with me. I think Hard Eight is like honestly kind of a D. Okay, next up is Magnolia, another Paul Thomas Anderson joint in a row. This one is going straight in the S tier alongside Punch Drunk Love. Magnolia is fantastic. I was comparing Happiness and Magnolia to each other already, just in their like structure, their vignette-esque fashion with these big ensemble casts. And they're also both fucking fantastic. Magnolia is excellent, truly a masterpiece. Okay, next up is Red Dragon. This was the filmic follow-up to Silence of the Lambs with Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal Lecter, but it's actually an adaptation of the first Hannibal Lecter book, which is the titular Red Dragon, though it wasn't the first time that book was done because Michael Mann made Manhunter before then. He changed the title from Red Dragon to Manhunter for some reason. Michael Manhunter. And Manhunter is a better telling of this story than Red Dragon is. But the Hannibal TV show is actually better telling than either movie. Philip Seymour Hoffman, he plays the reporter in this one, Freddie Lowndes, and he does what he can. Same with like Edward Norton, and Anthony Hopkins is still, doing what he can in that role. It's not full-blown Hannibal, the Ridley Scott one. Like Red Dragon's better than Hannibal, and Hannibal's a lot better than Hannibal Rising. Those movies they get worse and worse and worse. Red Dragon, I think is like, I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen it. I probably need to revisit this one to like rate it accurately. I think it's probably a C or D. Since my memory on it's a little hazy, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and go C, but we'll see. That's contingent upon a rewatch. Next up is Capote. This is one of Philip Seymour Hoffman's biggest roles because it's what won him the Oscar. He got a couple other nominations, but this was his only win. I don't think it's his best performance, but I mean, I don't know. It's hard to compare because he's always just incredible. Every role he took on, it feels like, oh, no one else could have ever done that. Every role felt like it was tailor-made for him, including this one, which is like such a big swing, really, like such a big transformation. And he just nails it, like always. He's so good in this. I think Bennett Miller's direction is also very crisp. It's a great looking movie, really strong cinematography. The actual like shots from the In Cold Blood like recreation are very well done, like the true crime component of it. And I've seen the actual In Cold Blood movie, the one that's like a direct adaptation of that book without this like external true story side of it about like diving into the author more. It's a pretty solid movie. I think it's a B. Okay, next up is Charlie Wilson's War. This movie I don't think is very good. It was very high profile, lots of acclaim, lots of attention and whatnot, but I think it's a little sloppy on a script level. It was the final film from Mike Nichols, who obviously he made like The Graduate, kickstarted New Hollywood, and he made a bunch of other notable films throughout his career. This was his last movie, and it's not his best. It's not like a mess or anything. Like it's okay. It's an okay movie. Philip Seymour Hoffman is fucking dynamite when he pops up in his role, though. Again, he's not in like a huge portion of it. This is another one that he got Oscar nominated for Best Supporting Actor. And he's the reason to watch this movie. Like Tom Hanks, whatever. Julia Roberts, whatever. Philip Seymour Hoffman, fuck yeah, he kills this role. The movie, it's a C at best. And without Philip Seymour Hoffman, it would be like a D or an E, honestly. He brings it up that much. Again, except Talented Mr. Ripley. Again, Philip Seymour Hoffman, best part of the movie. I feel like you can say that about like almost anything he's in. Maybe just everything he's in, honestly. But again, a pretty small role. He's only in a handful of scenes. He leaves such an impression. He's just immediately captivating in this smaller role. But also, like, the other performances are good. Jude Law's really good. Matt Damon's really good in this role, actually. It's one of his better performances, I think. It's kind of an iconic movie. It's a classic. It's too long for what it is. It needed, like, serious trimming. But apparently people, I don't know, are going the opposite direction because I guess there's a Talented Mr. Ripley, like, TV show now. I don't even know if that came out or if it's still in the works or whatever. But yeah, they're going the opposite direction and making it longer. No, the movie was already too long. And I know there's, like, sequel books and stuff, so maybe that's what the TV show is pulling from because there's a whole book series where it keeps following the same character. But, like, I don't know. I'm not really interested in following this character any more than we already did. Very similar to Saltburn from like a year or two ago. Saltburn did a lot of what Talented Mr. Ripley did. Again, it's an okay movie. I think it's another C. It's all right. It's nothing special. But Philip Seymour Hoffman, he's special. He's real great in this role. And again, same thing. I sound like a broken record, but yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman is far and above the best part of Mission Impossible 3. He's the villain of this one, and he is so chilling in how like steady and like solid and focused he is in this role. He's downright terrifying. He's the best villain in this long-running series history. And again, he's the reason to watch this movie. Mission Impossible 3 is like not one of the better Mission Impossible movies, but he makes it one of the ones that I would say, oh, you got to watch that one just for his villain role. The rest of the movie, I could not care any less about. I think the movie's a D. He brings it up from like an E status. Okay, next up, Boogie Nights. I don't remember if I gave Boogie Nights the A or the S in my Paul Thomas Anderson tier list, but I think I'm going to give it the S here. Philip Seymour Hoffman, like I mentioned earlier, very small role, but he gets the absolute most mileage out of it. He's so great when he's just like in the background. He doesn't need lines. He just embodies this character so fully, and he's so either funny or like dramatically captivating at every moment. He's so good. It's a great movie, great ensemble cast, very funny, so impressive, the leap in quality from Hard Eight to Boogie Nights for Paul Thomas Anderson's first two movies. Crazy growth as a filmmaker between those two. Okay, Wanted Man. This one didn't do a whole lot for me. I would be open to revisiting it because it just kind of left me cold in a similar way that like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy did, and this so kind of similar to how The Little Drummer Girl did. And the connective tissue between them is that they're all adapted from Jean Le Carre novels, or is it Jean Le Carre? Whatever, the guy who writes all those spy books. Same author, same source material, different filmmakers handling all of them. I guess his style is just a little dry for me. I honestly didn't really care for this movie. I think I would go all the way down to E for it. I didn't like how the narrative was constructed or presented. Okay, next up is The Savages. Not to be confused with Savages, that Ridley Scott movie from a few years later on. It's really good. It's not going to blow your mind. It's not going to knock your socks off, but it's good for what it is, and it knows that. It's not really going for like the highest caliber or whatever. It's aiming to just be a solid, good little movie, and it succeeds in that goal. And yeah, I think it's a solid B-tier movie with a good Philip Seymour Hoffman performance and a good Laura Linney performance. Okay, Almost Famous. This is a great movie. Classic, quintessential coming-of-age film. Philip Seymour Hoffman plays a guy named Lester Bangs, so it's worth watching for that alone. It's a great movie. It's Cameron Crowe's only movie that I give a shit about. Really great characters and performances all around. Great soundtrack, but also great use of music in the plot line as well, which aren't always hand in hand. For something that isn't a musical, it's a movie about music without being a musical. Really good film, solid. I think it's an A tier. I wouldn't go all the way to S, but it's really, really good. Okay, The Ides of March. Very forgettable movie. Kind of came and went. I saw this, I think, pretty close to when it came out. It's okay. It's one of those movies where I think Clooney directed it. He's also in it as an actor, but I think it's one he directed. And I like Clooney as an actor, but he just does not have the juice as a director. He doesn't have it. Yeah, I don't know. If Clooney's acting in a movie, I go, okay. If Clooney's directing a movie, I go, ooh, I'll pass. And The Ides of March is the same deal. I think it's a D. Okay, Doubt. Doubt is fucking phenomenal. It's adapted from a play. And you can tell that a little bit, but not in too obstructive a way. It's not like some play adaptations where they feel a little too small and it's like, well, I might as well just be watching a play. Doubt expands the world a little bit. It's a case where the writer of the play came over for the film and did a great job, like holding true to its core while still opening it up a bit and making it feel more movie-like. It's excellently written. Philip Seymour Hoffman is phenomenal. So is Meryl Streep and Viola Davis. Viola Davis gives one of her trademark scene-stealing performances in this one. Amy Adams is the other lead, and she's good too, but she doesn't have quite as big of a character, doesn't have as showy of moments as the other three. It's excellent. I think it's another A tier. Okay, next up I'll grab the one that's poking up a little bit, which is A Late Quartet. This is a smaller scale kind of movie, but it's got a fantastic cast. The quartet of the title is Philip Seymour Hoffman, Christopher Walken, Catherine Keener, and Imogen Poots, who are all great. This is a movie that's all about the performances. The plot isn't anything special, but it's good characters and a really talented cast to sink their teeth into those characters. That's where it shines. It's not like incredible or anything, but it's a good ensemble performance piece. And I think it's B or C. It's like at the top end of the C, low end of B. I think I'm going to give it a low B rather than a high C. Okay, next was Mary and Max. This is a stop-motion movie in which Philip Seymour Hoffman voices Max of the title. This filmmaker actually has a new movie coming out soon that is also in stop motion and looks interesting at the very least. Mary and Max is a totally unique film. It's got such a sense of personality. It's funny, but it's also like really poignant and touching. It's a really great movie. I don't know if I'd go all the way to A, though. I think it's a B, but it's on the upper tier of the Bs. Okay, Synecdoche, New York. We're not fucking around here. This is an S tier movie right away. This is phenomenal. This is an all-timer right here. I talked about it on my Charlie Kaufman tier list. And spoiler alert, it's also on my top 250 video, which I have been trying to release for months now over on the main channel, Brickwall Pictures. This thing is so fucking tangled up in YouTube's copyright system. It got fully blocked, or not even just blocked, it got removed from YouTube and gave the channel a strike. I had to re-edit the video, re-upload it, resubmit all my copyright disputes and appeals and everything, and it's still going through that process. Hopefully I get to release that video eventually. And Synecdoche, New York is on there. Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, I just rewatched this one recently. It holds up so well. I love this movie. It's the final film from Sidney Lumet, and unlike Mike Nichols with Charlie Wilson's War, Sidney Lumet ended with a hell of a bang. That guy had a phenomenal career, starting way back with the original 12 Angry Men, all the way into the modern era with Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. That man adapted to the changing times like nobody else. Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, it's a pretty simple premise. The script does some things to elevate that premise a little bit. Sidney Lumet's direction is excellent. He was always great about bringing the best out of his performers, and here he's working with Philip Seymour Hoffman and Ethan Hawke in those two lead roles, and they are both like career best for the two of them. Not like very best, because Philip Seymour Hoffman, every performance from him is like career best for most people. But Ethan Hawke, yeah, one of his best. Philip Seymour Hoffman, definitely one of his best. He is so fucking intense in this role, especially in like the second half. It's unbelievable. He has like a handful of scenes that are all like, oh my God, that's one of the best acted scenes I've ever seen. Like multiple of those in this movie. Same with Ethan Hawke. And then also Michael Shannon's good in his smaller role. And Albert Finney is also really, really good in this role. It's just an excellent movie. It's the color grading's a little weird. It's not the most like visually appealing movie. It's like a little ugly, honestly. But everything else about it works really well. I think it's, honestly, rewatching it recently, I think I would have given it a B before, but I happened to watch this like 2 weeks ago. And I think it jumped up to an A for me on a second watch. It's really good. It subverts your expectations in exactly the right moments. And then those performances, you just can't outdo those performances. So yeah, here's our Philip Seymour Hoffman tier list. As you can see, it's a pretty wide spread. Like, he is covering the whole gamut here. These two, I'm not even like too strong about E's. Like, you could bump these up to D and I think it'd be fine. And I will say, like, he was never short of amazing. Even when the movie's a little weaker, he's still incredible. Like I said, Mission Impossible 3, he is so memorable in that role. It's just the rest of the movie is like nothing. It's like fluff and filler or whatever. Every scene he's not in, the movie screeches to a halt. But he is fantastic in it. Philip Seymour Hoffman, truly a special talent. Let me know in the comments where you'd rank his movies. But if you did enjoy this video, you can feel free to subscribe, or you can even check out the Brickwall Patreon, which is newly launched. You can actually see that top 250 video I mentioned over on the Patreon. I uploaded it there separately outside of YouTube's copyright bullshit. So that's been available on there for like a couple weeks already. So if you're curious, you can check it out there. And there will be other exclusive videos, early access videos, insider info, updates, all that kind of stuff over on the Patreon. Until next time, so long.